The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, which was fitting. Tuesdays were when Amara Williams counted pills at the pharmacy and pretended she wasn't calculating how many she could afford to skip. The package was unmarked, too light to be dangerous, too deliberate to be random. Inside, a USB drive and a handwritten note in Maya's careful script. "Mom, he kept everything." Amara's hands didn't shake. They hadn't shaken in 5 years, not since the judge called her volatile, while Jin-woo sat across the courtroom in Tom Ford, looking like wealth incarnate. Not when her daughter was escorted away by a man whose money smelled like other people's fear. She'd learned to hold still the way prey learns, by watching what happens when you flinch. She plugged in the drive, spreadsheets, transaction logs, names she recognized from news reports about bodies found in the Chattahoochee, and photos. Maya at 14, standing in rooms where business was conducted with silencers, not handshakes. Amara's stillness finally broke, not into panic, into something colder. She opened her phone and dialed a number she'd promised herself she'd forgotten. Amara Williams spent 5 years perfecting the art of being invisible, counting pills at a pharmacy while her daughter was raised in a world of silencers and blood money. It takes incredible strength to keep standing when wealth and power have already decided you've lost. We want to know, where are you watching this story from today? While you're typing that out, consider this. Amara never gave up on her daughter, even when the world turned its back on her. Are you going to turn your back on her story now, or will you subscribe to ensure her search for justice doesn't disappear into the shadows? Don't let her struggle go unnoticed. Time 0.5. Amara had perfected the art of being forgettable. At Bennett's pharmacy on Peachtree, she was the reliable one, arrived early, never complained, smiled at customers who treated her like furniture. She wore her scrubs loose, kept her natural hair pulled back tight, and had mastered the particular invisibility that came from being exactly what people expected. Black woman, 2 jobs, tired eyes. They stopped seeing her halfway through their transactions. That invisibility was armor she'd built deliberately. "Mrs. Chen needs her statins ready by 2, her supervisor called out, not looking up. "Already done." Amara's voice was pleasant, empty of edges. And I flagged the interaction with her new blood pressure medication. Her supervisor blinked, momentarily seeing her. "Oh, good catch." Amara turned back to her station before the attention could settle. She'd learned this calculus in the courtroom 5 years ago. Competence made you visible, and visibility made you vulnerable. So she stayed just useful enough to keep her job, just quiet enough to disappear. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "We should talk about what you received." She deleted it without responding. 3 more came in the next hour, each more insistent. The last one included a photo. Maya's bedroom window, taken from the street. Amara's hands stayed steady as she filled prescriptions, but her mind was cataloguing exits, calculating sightlines, remembering skills she'd promised herself, wert or buried. The pharmacy had 2 entrances, cameras with blind spots she'd mapped her first week, and a loading dock that opened to an alley. She finished her shift at 6. The black sedan was waiting in the parking lot. Too expensive for this neighborhood. Windows too dark to be legal. She walked toward her decade-old Honda, keys already positioned between her fingers the way her brother had taught her before he died, doing work that looked a lot like what was documented on that USB drive. The sedan's passenger window lowered. "Ms. Williams." The man inside had the kind of face that came from expensive moisturizer and violence in equal measure. "Mr. Park would like to invite you to dinner." "Tell Mr. Park I don't eat with strangers." "He's your daughter's father, hardly a stranger." Amara stopped walking, turned, looked directly at the man for the first time and let him see something she usually kept hidden. The part of her that had survived things that would have broken the woman Jin-woo's lawyers invented in court. "Tell him," she said quietly, "that if anyone photographs my daughter's window again, he'll need to hire new security, the kind that doesn't make mistakes." The man's expression shifted. Not fear. Men like him didn't scare easily. Recognition. He'd just realized the file Jin-woo kept on his ex-wife might be incomplete. He raised the window. The sedan didn't move until Amara drove away, and she knew, without checking, that it was following her home. Amara's apartment was a third-floor walk-up in East Atlanta, the kind of building where gunshots were just part of the ambient noise, and nobody asked questions. She'd chosen it specifically for that anonymity, but tonight, the peeling paint and broken security camera felt less like camouflage and more like exposure. The sedan had stopped following her 6 blocks back, which meant they already knew where she lived. She climbed the stairs, checking shadows, old instincts sparking like muscle memory. Her door was exactly as she'd left it, thread, still wedged in the frame's bottom corner, invisible unless you knew to look. Inside, she secured both locks and the security bar, then pulled the USB drive from her bra and plugged it into her ancient laptop. The files opened like a roadmap to hell. Jin-woo hadn't just documented his empire, he'd archived it, with the obsessive precision of a man who believed his own legend. Transaction records dating back 12 years, offshore accounts, shipping manifests for containers that never held what the paperwork claimed, and communications, texts, emails, recorded calls that connected him to 3 state senators, 2 federal judges, and a list of names that read like Atlanta's missing persons reports. Amara's hands hovered over the keyboard. One anonymous email to the FBI. That's all it would take. Except Maya's face was in these files too. At birthday parties held in mansions bought with blood money, standing beside men whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. Her daughter had been living in this world for 5 years, breathing its air, learning its patterns. The window shattered inward. Amara moved before conscious thought, rolled left, grabbed the knife she kept under the couch cushion, came up in a crouch with the blade angled low and lethal. 2 men in tactical gear were already through, the window moving with professional efficiency that said military training, private contractor money. The first one saw her stance and hesitated. Fatal mistake. She closed the distance before he could adjust, drove the knife through the gap between his vest panels, twisted once, and pulled free. He went down gurgling. The second one was faster, caught her wrist, slammed her against the wall hard enough to crack plaster. But Amara had been fighting men bigger than her since she was 16, and she knew the places armor didn't cover. Her knee found his groin with precision. When he doubled over, her elbow found his temple. Both men down in under 20 seconds. Amara stood breathing hard, knife still in hand, and felt the careful architecture of her invisible life collapsing around her. The woman who counted pills at Bennett's pharmacy didn't fight like this, didn't move like this, didn't have calluses from holding weapons or scars from situations she'd never explained in court. Jin-woo's lawyers had called her volatile, unstable, unfit. They'd been looking at the wrong evidence. Her phone rang. Jin-woo's number this time, not a proxy. She answered. "I'm impressed." His voice was silk over steel, the same tone that used to whisper promises in the dark before she understood what he really was. "I'd forgotten how capable you were. We need to talk, Amara, before this gets messy." "It's already messy. You sent men through my window." "Those weren't mine." A pause. "Check their phones." She knelt, keeping the knife ready, and pulled a phone from the conscious man's pocket. The last text was in Korean, but she didn't need translation. The sender's contact photo was clear enough. A man she recognized from the USB files, one of Jin-woo's rivals. They wanted what Maya sent you, Jin-woo continued. And now they know you can defend yourself, which means you're not just a problem, you're leverage against me, against our daughter. Don't you dare. 20 minutes. The address I'm texting you. Come alone, or I'll assume you want Maya to stay in the middle of a war you just armed both sides for. He hung up. The text arrived. An address in Buckhead, the kind of neighborhood where Amara's presence would trigger security calls. She looked at the two men bleeding on her floor, at the laptop still glowing with evidence that could destroy Jin-woo's empire, at the careful, quiet life she'd built from ash and willpower. Then she grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Some masks, once broken, couldn't be repaired. The house in Buckhead was the kind of obscene that required staff to maintain, all glass and sharp angles, built to display wealth like a warning. Amara parked her Honda between a Bentley and a Mercedes that probably cost more than she'd earned in 5 years. The contrast was intentional. Jin-woo had always understood the language of power. Security met her at the door. Different men, better trained, the kind who assessed threats without needing to prove anything. They scanned her for weapons, found the knife she'd kept visible, and the small pistol she'd hidden better. One raised an eyebrow. She stared back until he moved aside. Jin-woo was waiting in his study because, of course, he had a study. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a pool that glowed like blue money. He stood with his back to her, sharp suit, sharper posture, every inch the man who'd convinced a judge that his luxury was safer for Maya than her mother's love. "You redecorated," Amara said flatly. "Very serial killer chic." He turned, and despite everything, her body remembered him. The jaw she'd traced with her fingers. The mouth that had promised her safety before she learned that his version of protection came with bodies attached. 5 years had added grey at his temples, lines around his eyes. But the core of him remained. Beautiful and lethal in equal measure. "The men who broke into your apartment work for the Cheong faction," he said, no preamble. "They've been trying to undermine my operations for 6 months. Apparently someone told them about Maya's little care package." "Someone. Not you." "Not me." He moved closer, hands visible, non-threatening. "I've spent 5 years keeping Maya separate from the business, building walls between her world and mine. Then she finds my insurance files and sends them to you, and suddenly those walls are transparent." "Insurance files?" Amara laughed, sharp and bitter. "That's what you call documentation of murder, extortion, and trafficking? You're insuring yourself against what, Jin-woo? Consequences? Against men who don't value rules." His voice dropped. "Men who would use a 14-year-old girl to hurt me if they knew she was vulnerable, which she is now, because of what you're holding. So, this is my fault? This is a problem we share." He gestured to a leather folder on his desk. "I'm offering you a solution. Full custody restored, clean legal paperwork. You take Maya, leave Atlanta, start somewhere new with enough money that you never have to count pills again." Amara stared at the folder like it might contain snakes. "And the files?" "Destroyed. All copies. Maya's safe, you're safe, we both walk away." It was exactly what she'd wanted for 5 years. Her daughter back. Freedom from the man who'd weaponized the courts against her. A life without looking over her shoulder, which meant it was a trap. "You don't give up power," she said slowly. "Ever. You proved that when you took Maya just to prove you could. So what's the real offer?" Jin-woo's expression shifted, something almost like respect bleeding through the calculation. "The real offer is that you work with me. Use those files to help me eliminate the Cheong faction before they eliminate us. 2 months, maybe 3. Then you get Maya and disappear. Work with you. Her voice was ice. You mean become what you are? I mean protect our daughter using skills you've been pretending you don't have. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Maya, leaving school that afternoon. A black van parked across the street. The Cheong know where she goes, Amara. They know her schedule, her friends, her vulnerabilities, and they know I care about her, which makes her the perfect pressure point. Amara's chest tightened. The photo was taken 3 hours ago. You're saying they'll take her. I'm saying they'll do worse. Jin-woo stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive that memory attached to better times, before she'd understood what paid for it. I've kept monsters away from our daughter for 5 years, but I can't do it alone anymore. Not with the Cheong pushing, not with Maya already exposed. So you want me to be a monster too? I want you to be what you've always been. A woman capable of protecting what she loves by any means necessary. His hand moved toward her face, stopped just short of touching. I saw the men in your apartment, Amara. 1 knife, 20 seconds. You didn't hesitate. She jerked back. Don't confuse survival with partnership. Then survive this. You walk away with those files, the Cheong will hunt you both. Give them to the FBI, Maya gets caught in the investigation. Work with me, and she stays clean while we burn it all down. The folder sat between them like original sin. Amara thought of Maya's handwriting on that note. He kept everything. Her daughter, 14 years old, living in a house where business was conducted with silencers, learning to navigate monsters, becoming something Amara had fought her whole life to prevent. No, she said. Jin-woo's jaw tightened. No? I don't partner with the man who destroyed my life for sport. Find another way to solve your war. She turned toward the door. They already know about your sister. Amara froze. Janelle, right? 2 kids, working at the elementary school in Decatur. The Cheong are very thorough with leverage. Jin-woo's voice was quiet, factual. Walk out that door and I can't protect her either. The room felt airless. Janelle, who'd testified for her in court, who'd held her when the verdict came down, who had nothing to do with any of this except the misfortune of being related to Amara by blood. You're a bastard, she whispered. Yes, but I'm a bastard offering you the only exit where everyone you love survives. Amara stood in that pristine study, surrounded by wealth built on breaking people, and felt the trap close around her like teeth. Amara didn't go home. Home was compromised. Blood on the floor, window shattered, evidence that she was more than the pharmacy tech who smiled at customers and stayed invisible. Instead, she drove to the storage unit in College Park where she kept the things that didn't fit her careful new life. The unit smelled like rust and regret. She pulled the chain for the overhead bulb and stared at boxes she hadn't opened in 6 years. Her brother, Marcus's leather jacket. Photos from before Jin-woo, when she'd been someone else entirely. And in the back corner, wrapped in canvas, the go-bag she'd packed at 19 when survival meant being ready to disappear. She unwrapped it slowly. Fake IDs in 3 names. Cash in waterproof sleeves. A Glock 19 she'd bought off a man who didn't ask questions back when she'd been running with Marcus and his crew, back when she thought the danger was temporary and love could save her from it. Jin-woo had been the escape, or so she'd believed. She checked the Glock, still clean, still loaded. Muscle memory guided her hands through the inspection, and she hated how natural it felt. How easily she slipped back into the skin of the girl who'd known which alleys were safe, which men were dangerous, which lies kept you. breathing. Her phone buzzed. Janelle. Hey sis, weird question. There's a guy sitting in a car outside my house. Been there for like an hour. Probably nothing, but... Amara's blood went cold. Get the kids, go to Mom's. Right now. What? Amara, it's 9:30. They're already in bed. Janelle. Her voice cut like the knife she'd used earlier. Wake them up. Pack a bag. Go to Mom's and don't tell anyone where you are. Do it now. Silence. Then, oh God, is this about Maya's father? It's about keeping you alive. Move. She hung up and was already driving when Jin-woo called. I assume you got my message, he said calmly. If anything happens to my sister, nothing will happen if you're smart. But the Cheong needed to understand you're invested now. Background noise suggested he was in a car too, moving fast. They hit one of my distribution points an hour ago. Killed 3 men, took the product, left a message in Korean that translates roughly to, your ex-wife has something we want. They don't know me. They know enough. Marcus Williams' little sister raised in the West End when it was still bleeding. They pulled your juvenile record, sealed, but money opens doors. Assault charge at 16, weapons possession at 17. You were on a path before you met me, Amara. They're betting that path is still there. She gripped the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. Those records were supposed to be buried. The girl who'd earned them was supposed to be dead, replaced by the responsible single mother who counted pills and played by rules that had never protected her. Where are you? She demanded. Heading to your sister's. I sent men to ensure she gets out safely. I don't need your... Yes, you do, because 10 minutes ago someone tried to grab her from her driveway. My men stopped it, but it was close, Amara. Too close. The world tilted. Is she hurt? Shaken, not hurt. But they made their point. Everyone you love is a target until... This ends. His voice softened slightly, taking on the tone he used to use in bed when she'd believed his tenderness was real. I'm not the enemy here. You're the reason there's a war. I'm the reason our daughter has lived in safety while you rebuilt. I'm the reason your sister is still breathing instead of leverage in a warehouse somewhere. Hate me all you want, but don't confuse me with the men who'd burn your family for sport. Amara wanted to scream, wanted to drive to Buckhead and put a bullet in his skull, wanted to go back 6 years and warn the woman who'd fallen for a man whose love came with bodies attached. But Janelle's voice echoed in her head, scared, confused, dragged into violence she'd done nothing to deserve. I need to see her, Amara said finally. Already arranged. There's a safe house in Marietta. She and the kids are being moved there now. You can meet them, but Amara... He paused. Don't bring the files. The Cheong are watching for patterns. If you lead them to your sister, my men can't guarantee her safety. How do I know this isn't you setting up another trap? You don't. But you know I could have let them take her if I wanted leverage. Instead, I spent resources protecting someone who means nothing to me and everything to you. The sound of his car door closing. The address is coming through now. One of my people will escort you. His name is Kang. Former Oroki Special Forces, saved my life twice. You can trust him. I don't trust anyone in your world. Then trust that I want Maya safe more than I want to hurt you. Everything else is strategy, but that's always been true. He hung up. The text arrived, an address in Marietta, and a photo of a man in his 40s, Korean, with the kind of scars that came from knives, not accidents. Below it, Kang will meet you at the Waffle House on Cobb Parkway. Come alone. Amara sat in her car outside the storage unit, go bag on the passenger seat, gun heavy in her jacket pocket. She'd promised. Herself she'd left this life, the weapons, the violence, the calculations about who lived and who died. She'd believed the courtroom was the bottom, the place where she'd lost everything that mattered. But there were deeper bottoms, and Jin-woo had just shown her one. She started driving toward Marietta, toward her sister, and a safe house provided by a man who'd taken her daughter, toward a life she'd tried to bury, coming back like a debt that never expired. Behind her, someone had been following since she left the storage unit. Black sedan, 3 cars back. Careful, but not careful enough. Amara didn't change course, just memorized the license plate and kept driving. The past was bleeding through, and there was no tourniquet strong enough to stop it. The past is a debt that never truly expires, and Amara is now feeling the cold weight of the life she tried so hard to bury. She is currently risking everything, her anonymity, her safety, and her very soul, to keep her sister Janelle and those children alive, in a war she never wanted to fight. If you have followed her this far, you have seen the heavy toll this takes on a mother's heart. Showing your support by subscribing is the least you can do to honor the sacrifices she is making right now. Don't just be a silent witness to her trauma. Join us so you don't miss the moment she finally faces the monster she once loved. The Waffle House smelled like grease and burnt coffee. Familiar, American, ordinary. Kang sat in the back booth wearing a jacket that didn't quite hide the shoulder holster. He had the stillness of a man who'd learned violence as a language, spoke it fluently, and didn't waste words in any tongue. Ms. Williams, he gestured to the seat across from him. No pleasantries, no pretense. Your sister is secure. The children are asleep. No one followed them. Someone followed me. Amara slid into the booth, positioned so she could see both exits. Black Lexus, 3 cars back for the last 8 miles. Kang's expression didn't change, but his hand moved slightly under the table. They're testing response time, seeing who protects you and how fast. He pulled out his phone, typed something in Korean. Handled. They won't follow you from here. Handled how? Does it matter? It should have. The woman who counted pills at Bennett's would have demanded details, insisted on involving police, clung to the fiction that systems worked. But that woman was a costume Amara had worn to survive, and survival meant different things now. No, she said quietly. It doesn't. Kang studied her with the assessment of someone who'd spent decades evaluating threats. Mr. Park said you were military adjacent. Your brother's crew ran protection for the 9th Ward players before the territory wars. You were 17 when you put 2 men in the hospital for touching your friend. My juvenile record is sealed. Money unseals things. He pushed a folder across the table. The Cheong faction has 6 primary operators in Atlanta. These are their photos, known associates, patterns. You'll need to know them to stay alive. Amara opened the folder. Faces stared back, some Korean, some not, all carrying the particular hardness that came from making violence a profession. Names, addresses, vehicle descriptions, the kind of intelligence that took months to compile. Jin-woo's been planning this, she said. Mr. Park plans everything. It's why he's still breathing. Kang leaned back, his eyes never leaving her face. The Cheong want the files your daughter copied. But more than that, they want proof that Mr. Park is vulnerable, that his control is slipping. A man who can't protect his own family can't protect his empire. So I'm the vulnerability. You're the variable they didn't account for. They know. You're Maya's mother. They don't know what else you are. He tapped the folder. Mr. Park thinks you can help eliminate the problem. I think you'll get people killed, including yourself. Comforting. I don't comfort. I assess. And my assessment is that you have skills, but no recent experience. Protective instincts that will get exploited. An emotional investment in a man who stopped being worth it years ago. The bluntness was almost refreshing. You don't like him much. I respect him. I don't have to like him. Kang's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned slightly. "We need to move, now." "What's wrong?" "The Lexus that followed you. It wasn't Cheong, different faction, opportunistic. They just hit a patrol near your sister's location." He stood, already moving. "Mr. Park's men are holding them off, but if they breach the safe house—" Amara was out of the booth before he finished the sentence. They took Kang's car, a nondescript Camry that moved like it had aftermarket. Everything. He drove with precision, no wasted motion, checking mirrors constantly. Amara checked her Glock, counted rounds, and felt the old reflexes settling into place like unwelcome guests who'd never really left. "How many at the safe house?" she asked. "Your sister, her 2 kids, 3 of our men. Against at least 6 hostiles if they commit fully." He took a corner at speed. "The smart play is to evacuate. Get your sister out before they escalate." "And if they're already inside?" Kang glanced at her, something like approval flickering across his face. "Then we go in and get them out. But Ms. Williams, this isn't the pharmacy. You shoot someone tonight, there's no going back to your careful little life. That life ended when they broke my window." "No. It ended when you chose to drive here instead of running. There's a difference." The safe house was a rental in a quiet subdivision, the kind of place where violence wasn't supposed to reach, which made it perfect for hiding. Kang killed the lights 2 blocks out and coasted to a stop behind a landscaping truck. Gunfire popped in the distance. 3 shots, then silence. "Suppressed weapons," Kang said quietly. "They're inside." Amara's pulse steadied, not spiked. Her body knew this rhythm, the hyper-awareness before action, the way fear sharpened instead of paralyzed. She'd felt it at 16, facing down men twice her size, at 19 running from police, at 23 in a courtroom watching her daughter disappear. Fear was just information. Violence was just a language. "Back entrance?" she asked. "Sliding door off the kitchen, lightly covered but less obvious than the front." He pulled a suppressed pistol from under the seat, handed it to her. "Don't aim for center mass. These aren't amateurs. They'll be wearing vests, head or pelvis." "I know where to shoot." They moved through the neighbor's yard, staying low, using shadows that Amara mapped instinctively. She'd grown up in neighborhoods where the difference between cover and concealment meant life or death. Suburban Marietta wasn't so different, just bigger houses hiding the same essential truths about vulnerability. The sliding door was cracked open, glass scattered inside. Kang hand-signaled, 2 hostiles visible, kitchen and living room. Amara nodded. They breached together. The first man died before he could turn. Kang's shot precise, professional. The second spun toward them, and Amara fired twice. Not center mass. Headshots, the way she'd been taught by a brother who'd believed violence was inevitable, so competence was survival. Both rounds hit. The man dropped. "Upstairs." Kang moved like smoke, already clearing the hallway. "Your sister's in the master bedroom." Amara took the stairs, weapon up, breathing controlled. 2 more hostiles on the landing, young, nervous, the kind who'd been promised easy money for hard work. She didn't hesitate. 4 shots, both down, and she felt nothing but the cold clarity of necessity. The master bedroom door was locked from inside. "Janelle," she called softly. "It's me. Open up." Scrambling inside, then the lock turned. Janelle's face appeared, tear-streaked, terrified, holding a lamp like a weapon. Behind her, the kids huddled on the bed with one of Jin-woo's men, who'd taken a bullet to the shoulder and was bleeding badly. "Oh, God," Janelle gasped. "Amara, they came in shooting. They killed Marcus." She stopped, seeing the gun in her sister's hand. "What are you—" "Later." Amara moved past her to the wounded man. "How bad?" "Through and through," he grunted in accented English. Missed the artery. I'll live. Can you walk? Can I fly? He tried to smile, failed. Get them out. I'll slow them down. Negative. Kang appeared in the doorway. Building's clear. 6 hostiles, all down, but more will come. He looked at Amara with new evaluation. You shoot well for someone who's been counting pills. I had good teachers. She helped the wounded. Man up, ignoring Janelle's stare. We need to move before police arrive. Neighbors definitely called this in. They evacuated in under 3 minutes. Janelle and the kids in Kang's Camry, Amara following in her Honda with the wounded man slumped in the passenger seat. Sirens wailed in the distance, converging on a crime scene that would raise questions no one could answer honestly. By the time they reached the secondary safe house, an apartment complex in Sandy Springs, Amara's hands were finally shaking. Not from fear, from the recognition that she'd just killed 3 people with the same mechanical efficiency she used to count pills, and the only thing she felt was relief that Janelle was breathing. Jin-woo was waiting in the apartment. He looked at her blood-spattered jacket, the gun she was still holding, the absolute absence of hesitation in her eyes. Welcome back, he said quietly. And Amara realized he was right. She'd crossed the line she'd sworn never to cross again. Not for him. Not for his war, but for the people who'd pay if she didn't. The apartment was sterile. Corporate rental furniture, blank walls, the kind of anonymous space designed for people passing through. Janelle was in the bedroom with her kids, door locked, probably crying. The wounded man was being tended by a woman who looked like a doctor and asked no questions. Kang stood by the window, watching the street with the patience of someone who'd done this before. Jin-woo watched Amara. She'd cleaned the blood off her hands but could still feel it. Phantom warmth, phantom weight. 3 men dead by her hand in under 2 minutes. The pharmacy tech who smiled at customers had killed efficiently, precisely, without hesitation. The mask hadn't just slipped, it had shattered. You should check on your sister, Jin-woo said. She doesn't want to see me right now. Amara's voice was flat. She's realizing. Her sister isn't who she thought. None of us are who people think. Don't! She turned on him, exhaustion making her sharp. Don't act like we're the same. You chose this life, built an empire on other people's suffering. I was just trying to survive your aftermath. Is that what tonight was? Survival? He moved closer and she hated that her body still registered his proximity as something other than threat. You moved like someone who'd been waiting for permission to stop pretending. 3 hostiles, 6 shots, perfect kill zones. That's not desperation, Amara, that's training. My brother trained me. Marcus trained you to defend yourself. Someone else taught you to hunt. His eyes were dark, knowing. You weren't running from your past when we met. You were hiding from what you were good at. The accuracy stung. Before Jin-woo, before Maya, there'd been 2 years she never talked about. Working for people who moved product through Atlanta's port. Learning that violence had rules, hierarchies, efficiencies. She'd been 20 years old and too good at solving problems that required permanent solutions. Marcus had pulled her out before she'd disappeared into that life completely. But the skills had remained, filed away like dangerous tools she'd promised never to use. I killed people tonight, she said quietly. You saved your sister. There's a difference. Not to the men I shot. Jin-woo stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with gunpowder. He'd been in the field tonight too, coordinating the response. You want me to tell you it gets easier. It doesn't, but it gets necessary. And necessity has its own morality. That's sociopath logic. That's survivor logic. And you survived tonight because you were willing to do what needed doing. His hand rose slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he brushed blood she'd missed from her jawline. I watched the security footage. You didn't freeze, didn't hesitate, didn't waste rounds. Where did you learn to shoot like that? The touch shouldn't have affected her. This man had destroyed her life, weaponized courts against her, stolen 5 years with their daughter. But her body remembered when his touch meant safety instead of strategy, when his presence in bed had felt like the first peace she'd ever known. Port of Savannah, she admitted. 2 years before you. I ran security for shipments that couldn't involve official channels. Marcus found out, dragged me back to Atlanta, made me promise I'd never... She stopped. It doesn't matter. That version of me was supposed to be dead. She's not dead, just dormant. His thumb traced her cheekbone, and she should have stepped back, but didn't. I fell in love with a woman who'd survived things that would have broken most people, who had strength she worked so hard to hide. You think I didn't know what you were capable of? Then why take Maya? If you loved who I was, why destroy it? The question hung between them like drawn steel. Jin-woo's hand dropped, but he didn't step back. Because the Nakamoto Gumi were circling. Because I'd made enemies who'd researched everyone close to me. Because I looked at our daughter and realized she was leverage waiting to happen, and the only way to protect her was to make her mine exclusively. Legally. Officially. So you painted me as unstable. I painted you as someone without resources to protect her from what was coming. And I was right, Amara. If you'd kept custody, the Cheong would have taken her 2 years ago when they made their first move. They'd have used her against me and she'd be... His jaw tightened. I took her to keep her alive. I'm still trying to keep her alive. By dragging me into your war. By giving you the choice you never had before. Fight beside me or watch everyone you love become casualties. He moved closer still, and now there was no space between them, just heat and history and the particular intimacy of shared violence. I know what I am. I've never pretended otherwise. But tonight, you remembered what you are, and it terrifies you because competence feels like complicity. It is complicity. It's survival with a body count. His breath ghosted across her lips. You can hate me for putting you here, but don't hate yourself for being good at staying alive. She should have pushed him away, should have remembered that this man was the architect of her worst nightmare, that his touch came with strings that choked. But she'd just killed 3 people to save her sister, and Jin-woo was the only person in the room who understood what that cost, what it meant, how it changed you. When he kissed her, she let him. It wasn't soft, wasn't tentative. It was the kind of kiss that acknowledged blood and gunpowder, that said, I see what you did tonight, and I'm not afraid of it. Her hands fisted in his shirt, and she kissed him back with 6 years of anger and grief, and the terrible relief of being seen completely. His phone buzzed, then hers. Both ignored them until Kang cleared his throat from across the room. The Cheong just posted a bounty, he said flatly. $1 million for Amara Williams, alive. Half that for information leading to her location. Amara pulled back, breathing hard. Jin-woo's expression had gone cold, calculating. How public? He demanded. Dark web, encrypted channels. But word travels. Every freelancer in the southeast will be mobilized by morning. Then we move again. Jin-woo turned to Amara, and the man who'd just kissed her was gone, replaced by the strategist who'd built an empire on chess moves and controlled violence. You, Maya, your sister, everyone gets relocated. Different cities, different identities until we eliminate the threat. Maya? Amara's stomach dropped. They know where she is? Not yet, but $1 million bounty generates a lot of motivated research. He was already moving, typing rapidly on his phone. I'm pulling her. from school tonight. She'll hate me, but she'll be breathing. The bedroom door opened. Janelle stood there, eyes red, holding her sleeping daughter. I heard, a bounty. Because you killed those men? Because I'm leverage, Amara said quietly. Against Jin-woo, against Maya. If they take me, they can force... I don't care about the details. Janelle's voice shook. I care that my children almost died tonight because you're involved in something that has bounties and safe houses and... She looked at Jin-woo with pure hatred. This is what you do? This is how you live? Yes, he said simply. And it's what's keeping you alive right now. So you can hate me after you're relocated somewhere that Cheong can't find you. Don't talk to my sister like she's... Janelle. Amara stepped between them, exhausted. He's right. We can hate him later. Right now, we need to move. Her sister stared at her like she'd sprouted horns. When did you become this? This person who kills people and kisses criminals, and when I had to choose between pretending to be helpless and keeping you alive. The words came out harsher than intended. You want me to apologize for saving you? I can't. I won't. Janelle's face crumpled. I want my sister back, the one who worked 2 jobs and believed in courts and didn't have blood on her hands. That sister is dead, Amara said, and felt the truth of it settle like weight. She died tonight in Marietta. I'm what's left. The apartment fell silent except for the sleeping child's breathing and the distant sound of traffic. Jin-woo made calls in Korean, coordinating movements. Kang watched the street, and Amara stood between her past and her future, both demanding pieces of her she wasn't sure she still had to give. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the message preview. Mom, they're taking me somewhere. Dad won't say where. I'm scared. I love you. Maya. Her daughter, 14 years old, being moved like a chess piece in a game she'd never asked to play. Jin-woo saw her face, read the message over her shoulder. Something flickered in his expression. Regret, maybe, or recognition that this was the cost of his carefully constructed empire. She'll be safe, he said quietly. She'll be alone. Amara looked up at him, and between them was 6 years of damage and tonight's blood, and a kiss that shouldn't have happened but couldn't be taken back. When this is over, you take her and disappear. I know. He touched her face once more, gentle, final. But until then, you're the most dangerous piece on the board, so we keep you moving, keep you sharp, and use that bounty to draw them out. You want to use me as bait. I want to use their greed against them. His smile was sharp as broken glass. $1 million will make people careless. Careless people make mistakes, and mistakes get them killed instead of you. Amara should have refused, should have grabbed her sister and run. But Maya's message burned in her hand, and Janelle's kids were asleep in a bedroom that wasn't theirs. And somewhere in Atlanta, men were calculating whether $1 million was worth the risk. She'd crossed the line tonight. Might as well use the other side's resources. What's the play? She asked. Jin-woo's smile widened, predatory and pleased. Now we hunt. The plan was elegant in its brutality. Leak Amara's location, let the bounty hunters come, eliminate them, and trace their communications back to the Cheong leadership. Jin-woo called it controlled bleeding. Amara called it suicide with extra steps. They staged her at a hotel in Midtown, visible enough to draw attention, defensible enough to survive the inevitable assault. Kang positioned 3 teams in overlapping fields of fire. Jin-woo coordinated from a command center 2 blocks away. And Amara sat in room 408 with a laptop, a pistol, and the growing certainty that this was how people disappeared. First contact in 20 minutes, Kang's voice crackled through her earpiece. 2 cars, 4 hostiles, amateur hour. Could be a probe, she replied, watching the parking lot through a gap in the curtains. Testing response before committing real resources. Either way, they die. You stay inside until we clear them. But Amara hadn't survived this long by following orders that felt wrong. She'd learned to trust the crawling sensation between her shoulder blades, the one that said something's off. And right now, everything felt off. The first car entered the parking lot exactly on schedule. Too exactly. Kang, they're not probing, they're distracting. She was already moving, grabbing the go bag she'd insisted on keeping packed. Where's Jin-woo? Silence. Then, command center's not responding. Her blood went ice cold. Get him out, now. She broke protocol, left the room, took the stairs 3 at a time. The hotel's back exit opened to an alley that should have been secured. Instead, she found one of Jin-woo's men face down in a spreading pool of blood, throat cut with professional precision. The Cheong hadn't taken the bait. They'd set their own. Amara ran. The command center was a converted office space with reinforced doors and enough surveillance equipment to monitor half of Atlanta. She approached from the rear access, the route Jin-woo had shown her 3 days ago, when he'd still been pretending she wasn't necessary to his plans. The door was ajar. Never a good sign. She entered low and fast, weapon up, scanning for threats. The main room was chaos. Overturned equipment, bullet holes in the monitors, and 2 bodies she recognized as Jin-woo's technical staff. But no Jin-woo. Looking for someone. The voice came from behind, accented, amused. Amara spun. The man was 50-ish, expensive suit, hands empty but positioned like weapons themselves. Behind him, 3 more. Younger, harder, the kind who'd learned violence in military programs before freelancing. Mr. Park is indisposed, the older man continued. My name is Cheong. I believe you have something that belongs to my organization. The files belong to Maya. I'm just holding them. Semantics. He smiled, and it was worse than threats. We've been very patient, waited for you to emerge to show us what you're capable of. Impressive work in Marietta, by the way. 6 of our contractors dead. You have skills we could use. Not interested in job offers. I'm not offering employment. I'm offering a trade. He gestured, and one of the younger men pulled out a tablet, turned it to face her. The screen showed Maya, not in Jin-woo's Buckhead mansion. In a room Amara didn't recognize, zip-tied to a chair, tape across her mouth, eyes wide with fear. The world tilted. Your daughter is remarkably resourceful, Cheong said conversationally. Found her father's secondary safe house, all on her own. Unfortunately for her, we'd already compromised his security detail. She's been our guest for approximately 40 minutes. If you hurt her, we won't. Not if you're reasonable. He nodded to the tablet. The files, Ms. Williams. All copies. In exchange, Maya goes home unharmed. You go home unharmed. We eliminate Mr. Park, take over his operations, and you never hear from us again. It was the deal she should have taken from the beginning. Her daughter's life for Jin-woo's empire. An easy equation, except she'd seen Cheong's operation documented in those files. Child trafficking, forced labor, the kind of business that made Jin-woo's violence look surgical by comparison. Turning over the evidence wouldn't save Maya. It would just ensure the monsters faced no consequences. Where's Jin-woo? She asked. Securing your sister, actually. We made sure he received intelligence about an immediate threat to her location. He responded predictably. Cheong's smile widened. While he's protecting your family, we're collecting his. Poetic in its way. The trap wasn't for Amara. She was just the pressure point. Jin-woo was the target, and they'd used his protection of her family to isolate him from Maya. Elegant, cruel, effective. "You have 3 minutes to decide," Cheong said. "Then we start removing your daughter's fingers. 1 every minute until you comply or she runs out of hands." Amara's mind raced through possibilities, each one ending in blood. 4 hostiles in the room. Unknown number outside. Maya's location unknown. Jin-woo en route to a threat that didn't exist. And she was alone with a pistol, her skills, and the growing certainty that someone was about to die. "The files are in a secure location," she lied. "I'll need to retrieve them." "You have them on your person, the USB drive in your jacket pocket." She'd been made. The backup drive she'd been carrying for emergencies. Of course they'd known. These weren't amateurs. They'd been 3 steps ahead since the beginning. 2 minutes, Cheong said pleasantly. Her phone buzzed. Jin-woo, voice tight with controlled fury. "It's a trap. Janelle's fine. Where are you?" She couldn't answer without alerting Cheong. Couldn't move without them shooting. Couldn't trade the files without dooming Maya to a life owned by men who'd make her father look merciful. "I need proof she's alive," Amara said. "Not a photo. Live feed." Cheong considered, then nodded. One of his men made a call in Korean. The tablet screen changed. Live video. Maya struggling against her restraints, tears streaming down her face. And in the reflection of the window behind her, Amara saw something that changed everything. A shadow moving across the glass. Someone outside the room where they were holding Maya. Someone who moved like Kang, economical, lethal, already in position. Jin-woo hadn't fallen for their trap. He'd set one of his own. "Okay," Amara said, pulling the USB drive from her pocket. "You win. Take it." She tossed it to Cheong. He caught it reflexively, and in that half-second of divided attention, she moved. Not toward escape, toward the closest hostile. She was inside his guard before he could raise his weapon, drove her pistol into his throat hard enough to crush cartilage, used his falling body as cover while she put 2 rounds into the man behind him. The third hostile was fast, got off a shot that burned across her ribs before she killed him. Cheong had his own weapon out now, aimed at her chest. Clever, futile but clever. Not futile, she smiled through the pain, just buying time. The windows exploded inward. Kang came through in a shower of glass, weapon already firing, taking down Cheong's last bodyguard before hitting the ground in a roll. Jin-woo followed, moving with the same lethal efficiency, weapon tracking to Cheong before the older man could adjust. "Drop it," Jin-woo's voice was ice, "or die reaching." Cheong dropped the pistol. "You're too late. My men have your daughter. You attack me, she dies." "Your men had my daughter." Jin-woo's smile was terrible. Past tense. Kang's team eliminated them approximately 90 seconds ago. She's already en route to a real safe house. The color drained from Cheong's face. "Impossible. We were monitoring. You were monitoring the feeds I let you monitor. Watching the security I let you compromise. Following the plans I let you steal." Jin-woo moved closer, weapon never wavering. "You thought you were hunting me. You were dancing on strings." Amara sagged against the wall, clutching her bleeding side, watching Jin-woo dismantle Cheong's certainty with each word. This was what loving him had cost her, the knowledge that he played chess with human lives, that his protection came wrapped in manipulation, that even when he saved you, he'd been controlling the game all along. "The files," Cheong gasped. "The USB contains malware that's currently mapping your entire network. Every contact, every account, every operation." Jin-woo leaned closer. "In approximately 30 seconds, my people will have everything we need to dismantle your organization completely." You're bluffing. Am I? Jin-woo's finger tightened on the trigger. Ask yourself, in the last 10 minutes, have any of your people checked in? Has anyone responded to your emergency protocols? Or have you just been standing in this room, so focused on Amara that you didn't notice the silence? Cheong reached for his phone with shaking hands. No messages, no calls, just silence where his empire should have been screaming. Impossible, he whispered. Inevitable, Jin-woo corrected. Then he pulled the trigger. The shot echoed in the confined space. Cheong collapsed, surprise frozen on his face, and Amara understood with absolute clarity that she'd just witnessed not rescue but consolidation. Jin-woo hadn't saved her. He'd eliminated competition while she provided the distraction. Maya, she said through the pain. I need to see her. She's safe. Jin-woo crossed to her, holstered his weapon, examined her wound with practiced efficiency. Superficial. You'll need stitches, but you'll live. His eyes met hers, dark and unreadable. You were supposed to stay in the hotel. You were supposed to tell me it was a setup. If I'd told you, your reaction wouldn't have been genuine. Cheong needed to believe he'd outmaneuvered us. Jin-woo's hand pressed against her bleeding side, applying pressure. I needed him confident, exposed. You played your part perfectly. The words hit like bullets. My part. You used me as bait without telling me. I used you as exactly what you are. Someone competent enough to survive while I eliminated the threat. No apology in his voice. No regret. The Cheong organization is finished. Their leadership dead, their network compromised. Maya's safe. Your sister's safe. You're safe. That was the goal. The goal was partnership. You said, I said I'd protect our daughter. I did. He lifted her to her feet, supporting her weight. Everything else was strategy, Amara. You know that. You've always known that. She had. And the knowing was what made it unbearable, that even in his honesty, Jin-woo was manipulation wrapped in truth. That loving him meant being a piece on his board, moved with precision, sacrificed when necessary. Kang appeared in the doorway. Building's clear, but we need to move. Police response in 4 minutes. They evacuated through underground parking, leaving bodies and evidence for a crime scene that would generate questions but no answers. Amara sat in the back of Jin-woo's car, bleeding onto leather that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and felt the trap of her own competence closing around her. She'd survived. Maya had survived. The Cheong were eliminated, and all it cost was the last piece of herself that believed in anything resembling clean. The doctor who stitched Amara's side worked in a private clinic that didn't keep records or ask questions. 15 stitches. Antibiotics, painkillers she refused, because she needed her mind sharp. Jin-woo watched from the doorway, expression unreadable, and when the doctor left them alone, the silence felt like accusation from both directions. Maya's asking for you, he said finally. Where is she? Property in Roswell, gated, secured, isolated enough that nobody's getting close without warning. He paused. She knows what happened tonight. Not details, but enough. She's terrified, Amara. Not of the Cheong, of us. The pronoun felt like shrapnel. Us. As if they were a unit now, bound by blood and strategy. As if tonight's manipulation was just another step in a partnership she'd never truly consented to. I need to see her alone, Amara said. Not possible. You're still a target until we've confirmed every Cheong cell is neutralized. Then you wait outside. But I talk to my daughter without you orchestrating what I say. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, maybe, or recognition that he'd finally pushed too far. I never orchestrated what you say. I only controlled where you said it. That's the same thing. No, It's the difference between strategy and manipulation. I put pieces in play. You chose how to move. He stepped closer and she forced herself not to retreat. Tonight, you could have given them the files, could have traded Maya's life for mine. You chose to fight instead. That wasn't me controlling you, that was you being exactly who you've always been. Someone you can use. Someone who survives. His hand rose, hesitated, fell. I won't apologize for keeping you alive, even if you hate the methods. I hate that you made me complicit in your war without asking if I wanted to fight it. You were already complicit. The moment you plugged in that USB drive, the moment you killed those men in your apartment, his voice softened. I didn't drag you into this, Amara. I just stopped letting you pretend you weren't already here. The accuracy stung worse than the wound in her side. Because he was right. She'd made choices, pulled triggers, crossed lines before Jin-woo's trap had sprung. The comfortable fiction that she was a victim of circumstances had died somewhere between Marietta and Midtown. "Take me to Maya," she said. The drive to Roswell was silent. Kang followed in a second vehicle, professional paranoia that felt justified after tonight. The property was exactly what Jin-woo had described, 10 acres, single access road. Enough surveillance to catch a squirrel trespassing, the kind of safety that required constant vigilance and absolute isolation. Maya was in the main house, curled on a leather couch that probably cost more than Amara's car. She'd grown in 5 years. Taller, sharper features, her father's intensity bleeding through childhood softness. But right now she just looked 14 and terrified. "Mum." The word broke something in Amara's chest. She crossed the room, pulled her daughter close, felt Maya's whole body shaking. "I'm here, you're safe. I promise." "They had guns. They said they'd hurt me if Dad didn't." Maya pulled back, eyes red. "This is because of the files, isn't it? Because I sent them to you? This is because your father built an empire on violence, and violence doesn't stay contained." Amara glanced toward the door where Jin-woo stood watching. "But it's over now. The people who threatened you are gone. Dead." Maya's voice was flat. "Dad told me. The Cheong leadership, their operation, all of it. He said you helped." The judgment in those words was quiet, but absolute. Amara felt it like a blade. Her daughter, who'd sent those files hoping her mother would save her, now realizing salvation came with a body count. "I did what I had to do to keep you breathing." "By killing people." Maya stood, putting distance between them. "Dad's been teaching me about his business. Says I need to understand it since I'm his heir. I thought he was being paranoid, but you actually did it. You became like him." "I became what was necessary." "That's what he always says." Maya's laugh was bitter. Too old for 14. That everything's necessary. That violence is just problem solving. That the people who die don't matter as much as the people who survive. She turned to Jin-woo. "Is that what you taught her, or was she always like this?" Jin-woo's expression remained neutral, but Amara saw the calculation behind his eyes, assessing how this conversation would play, which words would rebuild trust, which would fracture it permanently. "Your mother," he said carefully, "has always been capable of protecting what she loves. I just gave her permission to stop hiding it." "Permission?" Maya's voice dripped scorn. "You mean manipulation. You used her the same way you use everyone, as pieces in whatever game you're playing." Yes, the admission seemed to surprise even Jin-woo. "I did, because the alternative was watching both of you die while I pretended there were clean solutions to dirty problems. There's always a choice." "No." Amara stepped between them, ignoring the pull of her stitches. "There isn't. Not when men with guns break into your home. Not when they threaten your family. Not when the systems that are supposed to protect you are owned by people with more money and better lawyers. She faced her daughter fully. I wanted to believe in choices, in courts and justice and doing things the right way. Your father took you from me using the right way. The Cheong almost took you using violence. Both times, the only thing that kept you breathing was someone willing to fight dirty. So that's it? Maya's eyes glistened. We just accept that this is life now? Running and hiding and killing people who threaten us? No. Amara looked at Jin-woo, felt something shift in her chest. Not love exactly, but recognition. We end it. Permanently. Jin-woo's expression sharpened. The Cheong are finished. But your empire isn't. And as long as it exists, Maya's a target. Every rival, every ambitious lieutenant, every organization that wants what you have, they'll all see her as leverage. Amara moved closer to him, held his gaze. You wanted me in your war. Here's my condition. We don't just eliminate threats. We eliminate the reason for them. You're asking me to dismantle everything I've built. I'm asking you to choose your empire or your daughter's freedom. She felt Maya's attention snap to her, felt the weight of Jin-woo's entire operation pressing against this single moment. You kept those files as insurance. Use them. Turn evidence. Cooperate with federal prosecutors. Burn it all down from the inside. Take immunity. Take witness protection. Take whatever deal keeps you breathing while giving Maya a chance at a normal life. The silence stretched like wire about to snap. You'd trust federal protection? Jin-woo's voice was careful. After what you've seen of how systems work? No, but I trust that without an empire to fight over, the people who'd hurt Maya lose interest. Amara stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath. You've spent 5 years building walls between her and your business. This is the only way to make those walls permanent. And us. The question was quiet, private, meant only for her. What happens to what we... There is no us. The words hurt more than she'd expected. There's you, making the first unselfish choice of your life. And me, finally getting my daughter back. That's all this ever was. Maya was crying silently now, watching her parents negotiate her future like a contract. Jin-woo looked at his daughter, then at Amara, and something in his expression finally cracked. The certainty, the control, the absolute conviction that he could strategize his way through anything. If I do this, he said slowly, I won't be able to protect you, any of you. The organization will see it as betrayal. My own people will disappear. Amara's voice was steady. New names, new city, new lives. You testify, serve whatever minimal sentence they negotiate, and when you're out, you stay away from us. Completely. You're asking me to lose everything. I'm asking you to save your daughter by becoming someone worthy of her. She touched his face once, gently. Final. You've been a monster with good intentions long enough. Time to try something else. Jin-woo closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The strategist replaced by just a man who'd built an empire and was watching it crumble by choice. Kang, he called, get me a secure line to Agent Morrison, FBI Organized Crime Division. Maya gasped. Amara felt her own breath catch, not in surprise, but in the terrible relief of watching someone finally choose right over easy. And Maya, Jin-woo continued, voice rough, I'm sorry for all of it. The custody battle. The years you spent in my world, every time I chose control over honesty. Your mother's right. You deserve better than being a piece on someone else's board. He left the room to make the call that would end everything he'd built. Amara pulled Maya close, felt her daughter finally break down completely, and knew that survival had never been the goal. Freedom was, and freedom required burning bridges, destroying safety nets, choosing the terrifying uncertainty of normal over the predictable violence of Jin-woo's empire. Outside, Kang stood guard against threats that would multiply once word spread that Jin-woo Park was cooperating with federal authorities. They had maybe 48 hours before the entire organization turned on them. 48 hours to arrange protection, testimony, disappearance. 48 hours to survive one last time before the running finally ended. Maya pulled back, wiping her eyes. Do you love him? Still? Amara considered lying, considered all the ways truth could hurt. I love who he could have been, she said finally, but I'm done sacrificing for potential. Her daughter nodded, understanding in her eyes, the kind of understanding that came from growing up too fast, in a world too hard. In the other room, Jin-woo's voice carried through walls. Agent Morrison, we need to talk about the park organization. I have evidence, and I'm ready to cooperate fully. The empire began its collapse with a phone call and a choice. Amara held her daughter and waited for the explosion. 18 months later, Amara Williams didn't exist anymore. The woman who counted pills at Bennett's pharmacy was gone. So was the woman who'd killed 3 men in Marietta. In their place, Sarah Chen, assistant manager at a bookstore in Portland, Oregon, where rain fell constantly and nobody asked about the past. Maya, now going by Emma, was 15 and learning to be a teenager in a world without armed guards and hidden cameras. She had friends who complained about homework instead of worrying whether their father's business associates were planning coups. She rolled her eyes at curfews enforced by love instead of security protocols. She was learning to be normal, though sometimes Amara caught her staring at nothing, remembering rooms where business was conducted with silencers. Some scars didn't heal. They just learned to lie quiet. Mom. Maya appeared in the bookstore's back office, backpack slung over one shoulder. Jessica's parents invited me to go camping next weekend. Can I? 2 years ago, the question would have triggered threat assessments and security protocols. Now it just meant permission slips and sleeping bags. Progress, measured in the mundane. If you finish your history project first. Maya groaned, perfectly teenage, perfectly ordinary. She left with a dramatic sigh that made Amara's chest ache with relief. This was what freedom looked like. Complaints about homework and camping trips and the beautiful banality of safety. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, but she recognized the pattern. Kang using a burner, maintaining distance while checking in from whatever life he'd built after Jin-woo's empire collapsed. Package delivered, no signature required. Code. Meaning Jin-woo had completed his federal testimony, served 14 months in minimum security, and been released under conditions that included 0 contact with former associates, including his daughter, including Amara. She deleted the message and felt nothing, which was its own kind of grief. The federal case had been comprehensive. Jin-woo's cooperation had dismantled not just his organization, but 3 others connected to it. 47 indictments, hundreds of arrests. The kind of operation that made careers for prosecutors and ended criminal empires. He'd given them everything, held nothing back, and in return, received the lightest sentence possible for someone who'd orchestrated violence on an international scale. Some people called it justice. Amara called it arithmetic. Lives weighed against consequences. Guilt measured in months instead of bodies. Janelle had taken the kids to Phoenix. Different names, different futures. They spoke once a month. Careful conversations that avoided specifics. Her sister was learning to forgive, or at least learning to live with the sister who'd killed to save her. The distinction mattered less with distance and time. The bookstore closed at 6. Amara locked up, checked her surroundings with instincts that would never fully sleep, and drove home through rain that made Portland feel like a different planet from Atlanta's humid heat. Their apartment was a small, third-floor walk-up, the kind of place where broken security cameras were maintenance issues instead of strategic vulnerabilities. Maya was at the kitchen table, laptop open, actually working on her history project. The domesticity of it still felt foreign, like wearing someone else's clothes. "How was school?" Amara asked. "Starting dinner? Chicken stir-fry, vegetables bought from the farmer's market? Normal food for a normal life." "Boring. Jessica's obsessed with this boy who doesn't know she exists." "Standard drama." Maya paused. "Do you ever think about going back?" "To what?" "Atlanta, our old life." She wasn't looking at her mother, attention focused on her screen. "Dad's out. The organizations are gone. We could—" "No." Amara's voice was gentle but absolute. "That life doesn't exist anymore, and the people we were in it, they're gone too." "I know, but sometimes I miss—" Maya trailed off, and Amara understood. Her daughter missed the father who'd protected her fiercely, even while building walls of violence around her. Missed the certain safety of armed guards and unlimited resources. Missed knowing exactly where she stood in a world with clear rules, even if those rules were written in blood. "You can miss something and still know it was wrong," Amara said. "Like you and Dad?" The question landed like a punch. Amara set down the knife she'd been using, turned to face her daughter fully. "I loved who I thought he was, and I understood too late that the man I loved was the mask, not the person underneath. But you still think about him. Always, in quiet moments, in the space between sleep and waking, in the way her body still remembered his touch, even as her mind catalogued his betrayals. Love didn't disappear because it was inconvenient or dangerous or wrong. Thinking about someone and wanting them back are different things," Amara said finally. Maya nodded, returning to her project, and Amara went back to cooking dinner in their small kitchen, where violence felt like something that happened to other people in distant cities. That night, after Maya was asleep, Amara stood on the balcony watching rain dissolve Portland into soft focus. Her side ached, where the scar tissue pulled tight. Permanent reminder of the night she'd been bait in someone else's trap. She had other scars now, invisible ones, the kind that came from killing people and surviving choices that should have destroyed her. Her phone buzzed again. Different unknown number. The files are still out there. Backed up in places I didn't tell the feds about. Insurance in case the testimony wasn't enough. Only 3 people know the locations. You, me, Maya. Keep her safe. Jay. She should have deleted it immediately. Should have blocked the number and reported the contact violation. Instead, she read it twice, memorizing the words, understanding what Jin-woo was really saying. "I'm still protecting you the only way I know how. With leverage and secrets and insurance policies written in other people's crimes." He couldn't help being what he was. Even in freedom, even in supposed reformation, Jin-woo Park moved pieces on invisible boards, planned for contingencies, treated love like strategy that required backup plans. Amara deleted the message. Then she pulled out the USB drive she'd kept hidden despite every instruction to destroy it. The original files Maya had copied, preserved not for revenge, but for the same reason Jin-woo kept his backups. Because safety was an illusion, and insurance was the only honest currency. She'd sworn she'd never be like him, never calculate lives against advantages, never treat relationships as transactions. But she'd learned in Atlanta that survival required adopting the tools of the world you fought against. You could hate the math while still doing the calculations. You could grieve the person you'd been while becoming the person who lived. "Mum," Maya stood in the doorway, half asleep. "You okay?" "Just thinking. About Dad? About how we got here, and whether it was worth it." Maya crossed to stand beside her, both of them watching rain fall on a city that didn't know their names or histories. "Was it?" Amara looked at her daughter, alive, safe, angry about homework and excited about camping trips, growing into someone who'd never have to choose between violence and vulnerability the way her parents had. Someone who might actually have choices, real ones, the kind that didn't come preloaded with casualties. "Yes," she said, "it was worth it." They stood together in the rain-sound silence, and Amara understood that this was the real aftermath, not the absence of danger, but the presence of boring, beautiful, ordinary life. The kind of life that required constant vigilance to maintain and absolute ruthlessness to protect. She'd paid for it with blood and lies, and the death of every comfortable fiction about who she was. She'd traded love for survival, empire for anonymity, certainty for the terrifying possibility that maybe, finally, they could rest. But the USB drive stayed hidden. The instincts stayed sharp. And every time an unknown number called, she checked before answering. Because aftermath didn't mean over. It just meant different. And the woman who'd survived Jin-woo Park's world knew that different was sometimes the best you could hope for. Maya went back to bed. Amara stayed on the balcony, watching rain and shadows, keeping guard over a peace that required someone always standing watch. Some wars ended, others just changed theatres. And some people, the ones who'd crossed too many lines, killed too efficiently, loved too dangerously, never really stopped fighting. They just learned to fight quieter in the spaces between normal moments, keeping weapons close and exit strategies closer. The rain fell. The city slept. And Sarah Chen, who used to be Amara Williams, stood watch over a daughter who used to be Maya Park, both of them wearing new names over old scars, building ordinary lives on foundations of carefully managed violence. It wasn't the ending either of them had imagined, but they were breathing, together, free. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. Amara and Maya have finally reached a version of peace in the rain of Portland, but it is a quiet life built on the ruins of their past and the weight of secrets that may never truly fade. They traded their names and their history for a simple chance to breathe without looking over their shoulders. This journey of a mother's iron will has reached its conclusion, but the legacy of her survival remains. If you truly valued the time you spent walking alongside Amara from the pharmacy to her final freedom, subscribing is your final way to prove that her story mattered. Don't just walk away and let her victory be forgotten like a name changed in the night.